famous musical genius born on December 16, 1770 in Bonn, Germany, Ludwig van Beethoven, or commonly known as Beethoven, did not start having these musical skills. It took many beatings from his father. Neighbors of his would complain about hearing a child wailing. Poor little Beethoven was deprived of sleep, standing on a step stool in the basement to reach the keys of his father's piano. He went to a Latin grade school called Tirocinium, and before he was a teenager, he was already performing music for people at concerts thanks to his father's brutal beatings. However, he did not get any attention from the newspapers. He had gone to audition with Mozart, though he had later learned that his mother had become very ill. He rushed home from Vienna to Bonn. Several months later, his mother had died and he went into a depression. Performing his beautiful music later in life, his hair starting to turn white at a young age. His father's alcoholism got worse, but Beethoven was already busy as a musical genius. He was renowned all over Germany. The famous Beethoven made his own music and composed it at concerts, entertaining hundreds of people. Along with his hair turning white, he was starting to lose hearing. Beethoven had 2 younger brothers, but he never had children. Beethoven never had pets either. The poor man was without a wife, children, and pets, and now becoming deaf. Though he persisted and still continued to write music, knowing he was losing hearing. He wrote his final symphony completely deaf. Beethoven died in Vienna, Austria, on March 26, 1827. Scientists say the cause of his hair loss and his deafness was from poison, possibly in one of his drinks. Beethoven will always be remembered as a musical genius.
Fred Bailey was born in 1817. No one knows the exact date of his birth, but later on in his life he decided to celebrate on February 14th. Young Fred was only 7 years old when he was walked to a plantation by his grandmother. His new owner was Captain Anthony. One night when Fred was coming into the kitchen for breakfast, the cook did not feed Fred and threatened to starve him to death. Though throughout the day, Fred was worried that the cook still remembered to not feed him. And after a hard, long day of work, Fred went into the kitchen, and she still did not feed him. Well, she pointed him out of the room. While he was sitting outside the door of the kitchen, he had a surprise visitor. It was his mother. Fred told her all about the cook. His mother would not tolerate it. She told the cook not to threaten him again, and she didn't. On a Sunday morning, Fred was set about on a boat. The boat was bound for Baltimore, to be a house slave for Mr. and Mrs. Ault, relatives of Captain Anthony. He was a lot more happier there. They treated him more like a regular kid than a slave. They treated him very well. On one morning, Fred asked if he could learn how to read and write. Mrs. Ault was delighted to. She taught him how to read and write. After a while, Fred was sent to a farm. The owner of the farm was Eddie Convote. He was very sad now. When Eddie threatened to do something to Fred did not really care. Eddie hated this about Fred, so Eddie sent him to be broken. When he was sent to another farm to be broken, when he was getting beaten, he stood up for himself and fought back. Freddie won the brawl with his new master. After the brawl with his master, he was sent back to Baltimore, where he worked at a shipyard. One evening, a friend gave him papers to go out to the northern states. Fred did, and there he settled in New Bedford, Massachusetts. He married Anna Marie, and he started to speak publicly about slavery. I think that Frederick Douglass was an amazing person. He helped in the Civil War, but sadly, he died on February 20th, 1895. Even though he is gone, we will still always remember him.
Albert Einstein was a genius that the world will never forget. He helped many people understand more about the world and how it works. He also helped people understand about what is around the world, including black holes, stars, and the speed of light, which is also on this world. If Einstein hadn't existed, we never would have had space travel. We never would have made the atomic bomb. So many amazing things never would have happened without Einstein. Neil Armstrong never would have landed on the moon, and people would still think that light didn't move, and people would be oblivious to the theory of relativity. Most people still are oblivious to it. In case you don't believe me about his intelligence, listen to this excerpt of his most famous paper, The Special and General Theory of Relativity, and afterwards tell me if you understood a word he said. It is not clear what is to be understood here by position and space. I stand at the window of a railway carriage which is traveling uniformly and drop a stone on the embankment, then disregarding the influence of air resistance, I see the stone descend in a straight line. Now, did anybody understand that?
Well, what?
Are you going to take that as what did you understand?
Well, I heard stone in there. I know what that means. It's a rock.
Okay, so then what Einstein is talking about in this excerpt is that there are two people, one in the train and one out of the train. The person in the train drops a rock out of the train, which is traveling at a constant speed. This person sees the stone fall straight down, but the person outside the train sees the stone curve as it comes down. Now, does the stone curve, or does it go straight? I'm one of the many people that does not know. Einstein lived in many places, including Ulm and Munich in Germany, Milan in Italy, Aarau and Zurich in Switzerland, and New Jersey in America. As a child, his family was very poor. Albert's father had a featherbed company that was failing. Then his dad started an electrical company, which was also failing. And he wasn't bringing home enough money to really support the family. Then Einstein's uncle opened another part of the electricity business in Munich, the capital of Germany. I think it's the capital. And so the Einsteins all moved to Munich. There, Einstein went to a school called the Luitpold Gymnasium, where the rules were extremely strict. Students were expected to spend the whole class period writing down everything the teacher said. And when a teacher called on the student, that student was expected to answer it in the teacher's exact words. And he did not like it there because Einstein did not have a very good memory. Then, when his dad and uncle were not allowed to keep having the electricity business in Munich, they moved to Milan in Italy, but Albert was left in Munich to finish school. He ran away and went to join his parents in Italy. Then he tried to get into the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School, which is today known as the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. But he failed the entrance exam, except for in mathematics and physics. So then he went to a different high school to finish his high school for another year. Then when he was done with that, he got into the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School. Okay. Einstein had many major accomplishments. The most famous one was E=mc squared, the theory of relativity, which I already said the excerpt, which is where he's trying to explain it. And that also led to the creation of the atomic bomb. I already said that too, didn't I? But anyway, so he helped people understand a a lot about the world and what's around the world, and he was an extremely important person. And in the eternal words of Albert Einstein, Fantasie ist Wichtiger als Wissen, which is German for imagination is more important than knowledge.
Very good.
Michael Jackson was one of the most popular music artists of all time. He had many accomplishments in his life. For example, when he released his famous song Thriller and it received 172 million views on YouTube, or when he received the Grammy Legend Award, which only 15 people on the earth have received. I personally think that's very interesting. But some other interesting things about him were that he had a pet chimpanzee named Bubbles. It was pretty much his best friend throughout his life. Michael Jackson did face one very big hardship. He started suffering with a disease in his 30s called vitiligo. Vitiligo is a disease that turns your skin white. When Michael Jackson got vitiligo, he started getting blotchy white patches, but he decided to just bleach all his skin white. In his childhood, Michael Jackson had a great life. He played in his brother's band called the Jackson 5, and it almost immediately became a hit sensation throughout his town, Roosevelt, Indiana. They even still have one song that is still popular today, and that is ABC 123. But some people want to criticize him by calling him names, making fun of him, or saying he looks like a girl. But I think that's because they know he is much better than they. And all the things they say are because of his disease. But overall, I think he's an outstanding music artist.
Mohandas Gandhi was born on October 2nd, 1869, from Bandar, India. When he was 7, he moved to Rajkot, India. There he married Kasturabi Mukherjee at the age of 13. When he was 17, he went to England for 3 years of college. When Gandhi came back, he began to free India from Britain's rule. He had multiple methods of doing so. The first way was civil disobedience. Mass groups of people gathered to disobey unjust laws and protest in the streets. Another way was fasting. Gandhi would fast until the law was taken back. He did this until 1947, when he had made India free from Britain's rule. Sadly, he was murdered on August 13th, 1947. My visual aid shows Gandhi leading a group of followers on a 200-mile walk from the sea to collect salt in defiance of England's monopoly on salt. This was a symbolic opposition to British rule in a non-violent way. Gandhi's followers must have really trusted him to walk 200 miles with them all the way to the sea. This was one of many tactics in India's independence from Britain.
Harriet Tubman is a girl who was a slave since birth. She was a hard worker and stronger than most male slaves. When she was 25, she married a man named John Tubman. Harriet always talked about running away from home, and after a while, John had enough of it. He said that if she ran away, she would tell her owner that she was going to run. Harriet Tubman made sure her husband was asleep. Then she ran. She was following the Underground Railroad. She ran and ran. She came to a station, which was a place in a house where slaves stay in for the night and get food, water, and a good place to sleep. A conductor is the owner of the station that helps runaway slaves. In the morning, she kept on going. She was heading to Pennsylvania to the first station. She got to the next station. The owner owned a shop. He supplied her with food, water, and place to sleep, and new shoes, which she really needed. Harriet Tubman finally got to Pennsylvania, and she wished she could free more slaves. Harriet Tubman became a conductor of the Underground Railroad. She freed over 300 slaves a year. 300 slaves never got caught. She knew her way around the Underground Railroad in 1896. In 1896, she married a Civil War veteran named Nelson Davis. In 1874, Harriet and Nelson adopted a baby girl named Gertie. She got a job in Auburn, New York as a nurse. She later died on March 10, 1913 in Auburn, New York, with pneumonia.
Jackie Robinson was famous for many reasons: his quotes, his athletics, and his willingness to help fight for the rights. Jackie Robinson was born in 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. Jackie was the youngest sibling of 5. Shortly after Jackie is born, his father leaves and doesn't return. Jackie Robinson grew up watching his older brothers excel at sports. His brother, Mac Robinson, won a silver medal in the 200-meter dash in the 1936 Olympics. In high school, Jackie won 4 varsity letters in baseball, basketball, football, and track. And after he finished college, he joined the Army but never saw combat. In 1944, Jackie Robinson was arrested for refusing to move to the back of a segregated bus, but was awarded the honor and able to discharge, was awarded with an honorable discharge for being in the Army. After the discharge, Jackie started playing professional baseball on the Kansas City Royals, and he had a batting average of 342. On April 1947, Jackie Robinson was traded to the Dodgers and played his first game. Jackie Robinson was awarded the most valuable player on the Dodgers and won Rookie of the Year with 124 runs and won the World Series. But even after baseball, Jackie wasn't done. He got a job application for Chock full of nuts, and after that job, Jackie supported his family on the Black Rides and joined the NAACP. With Sharon, Jackie Jr., and David Robinson as his kids, he died in 1972, Connecticut. Although he died, he still has a legend and was the first African American Major League Baseball player and idol. I'm done.